got more confirmation that Transformers 1 takes place 3 billion years before the live-action movies. And for some reason, people have a problem with these two being connected. See, before this came out today, I knew that this was going to be, like, these were connected. There's no reason for them not to be. Because it'd be weird to have a reboot of one cinematic universe while introducing another cinematic universe. Because Transformers 1, to my knowledge, has always been established as a prequel. And I'm just wondering, why are people so thrown off by the time frame, like 3 billion years before the live-action movies? Like, did we forget that Cybertronians are old as shit? Like, did we forget that in a lot of continuities, the war for Cybertron, like the war between the Autobots and Decepticons, has been lasting millions of years? And up to it. Now, I will say, I can't think of a specific continuity where it's specifically 3 billion, but this shouldn't be like really shocking news. At the end of the day, I'm really glad to know that it's confirmed that this is going to be a prequel to the live action movies. I actually prefer it that way, but let me know what you guys think. Well, boys, we got more confirmation that Transformers 1 takes place 3.
It honestly baffles me how certain people are so desperate to try to have this new Transformers movie be connected to existing universes. Can we honestly stop this narrative that Transformers 1 is connected to the live action films or any universe in general? There is legit no reason why this movie should be connected to anything. Remember when the fans, especially Lorenzo, was claiming that the Bumblebee movie was a prequel to the Bayverse? Even though that in that film there was inconsistencies that didn't match up the timeline.
Might actually dream to work with. I'm not saying he's perfect. He still has to save face to the studio heads, and he was really rude on the Rise of the Beast press tour.
So my question is, this movie has been quoted as it's a prequel, it's a sequel, and it's a reboot. I think each term carries a different expectation and pressure. So for the director and for the actors, if you wish to contribute, is that which is the heaviest term to carry and which is the lightest for you?
There you go. I mean, if you look at it from a timeline point of view, it follows Bumblebee. So, but it is a prequel in that it's before all the previous movies. So it sort of exists in its own way. What I don't think it is a reboot. Because it's still our characters. One of the things that Steven brought to the table right from the beginning, which was so great, was the idea that when we meet Optimus Prime, he's different than what we think of him. And we're watching him grow up, if you would, as a leader. And for me, that was one.
But part of me doesn't think it's intentional maliciousness. I just think he's ignorant. It's the job of these people to feed us vinegar and tell us it's honey. That's just how the industry works. At the end of the day, he's just trying to sell this movie to you.
Hell, Bayverse stopped being consistent since Age of Extinction ended last night. Fans believe that both those films are alternate universes and Dark of the Moon was a true ending to the Bayverse. Bumblebee came out in 2018, and fans have been debating whether or not that Bumblebee is a prequel or a reboot, which honestly shouldn't be that hard to tell. All you need to know is that Bayverse B landed in the 1940s, while in the tie-in movie comics established him landing in 2003, but in the Bumblebee movie, he landed in the 80s. Another thing to mention is that the Bayverse Optimus landed in 2007 in his protoform form, along with the other Autobots. But in the Bumblebee movie, he landed in the 80s days after B landed. It took Hasbro and Paramount multiple years to establish Rise of the Beast being a reboot. Remember Stephen Cable Jr. establishing that Rise of the Beast is a reboot?
And just to confirm, this is a true reboot, right? This is not part of the Bayverse, or, I mean, what can you tell us about that?
It's a reboot for sure. That's all I can say without spoiling.
Right.
This movie has a huge issue that is a direct result of the indecisiveness of the producers and the demands of the director. These two clashing heads gave us the movie we have today. Lorenzo has made it very clear that both Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast are not a rebooted universe. They're in the same continuity as the Michael Bay movies. I doubt Lorenzo is the sole reason these movies are refusing to do their own thing. But he's been taking the brunt of the blame for all this confusion, which is why he needs to shut up. He just keeps talking about it.
It's a sequel to Bumblebee because sequentially Bumblebee's 1987 and this is 1994, and the first one was 2007. So we really look at it as a pretty continuous timeline. But it is a prequel in that it's before all the previous movies.
Honestly, Lorenzo just needs to shut the hell up from now on.
Like 3 billion years before the live live action movies. Like, did we forget that Cybertronians are old as shit? Like, did we forget that in a lot of continuities, the war for Cybertron, like the war between the Autobots and Decepticons, has been lasting millions of years, and up to it?
What about Rise of the Darkspark? Did we forget that this is somehow connected to not just the Aligned continuity, but the Bayverse as well? We, the fandom, can collectively agree that this is probably an alternate universe, but none of the higher-ups are establishing whether it's an alternate universe or canon to the Aligned continuity and or Bayverse. So, in a way, I can say that Rise of the Darkspark is technically canon, but not canon at the same time, because I feel like that it should be that way. I said this before, but even Transformers Prime fans are hyping this movie up to be connected just because Air Arachnin and a few Vehicons appeared in the first trailer, when it could be taking inspiration while being its own thing, which I still personally believe that's what the film is going to be about. Remember during the production of Rise of the Beast, there were claims about Autobots, Decepticons, Terracons, and Predacons appearing in the film, but only 2 factions didn't make it to the cut? I mean, of course people are going to have a problem with them being connected to live action films because they're not exactly consistent. I mean, look at the Bayverse films. They stopped being consistent since Age of Extinction and The Last Knight. That doesn't mean that Transformers should be like a connected universe in general. Transformers is a franchise, not one big giant network where everything is connected. It can't be just its own thing. It can't be its own standalone thing like the Batman. So why the hell should we take anything what they say at face value when they can't even be consistent with their own continuities? I swear, y'all can't help but talk about how this movie is connected without even watching the damn film that hasn't even released yet. Just wait for the film to come out so it can speak for itself. Is it that so hard to ask or even attempt? If this film is going to be part of the rebooted continuity, it needs to be consistent unlike the last 2 Bayverse films, and it needs to be established, not from sources, but from the horse's mouth or the film itself. Well, that pretty much confirms it.
Give the video a like, give the video a shout out, above all, give the channel a groovy subscriber.